There's one question that seemed to come up a lot is when the parties present their demands. As a mediator, how do you translate that into a process?
Yeah, when you encounter, if I'm mediating, I would like to see the parties individually before the process begins, before I bring them together. And they put all their demands on the table. And their demands are always non-negotiable. And they insist that I attend to their demands as a matter of priority. And they regard their opponents' or enemies' demands as utterly unreasonable, as worthy of contempt alone. One of the things one tries to do as a mediator is discern the underlying needs and interests and fears. Very often, parties don't say this, but very often, although they tell you they have these demands that they wish to win, not losing is more important than winning. In other words, there are fears and anxieties and insecurities that drive the conflict. But nobody stands up and says, I'm engaged in conflict because I'm frightened, because I'm insecure. They say, what I want is this or that. So one of the things one's trying to do is discern the underlying needs and interests, the fears, and one's trying then to see how best they can be accommodated in a solution that meets a variety of needs and interests. To get locked into trading demands often takes one nowhere, but I wouldn't say that bargaining is a bad thing. Sometimes bargaining can be helpful. You want X, I want Y. Here's the deal. If you do Y, I will do X. Can we live with that? And you might say, yes, but there's also A. And I'd say, of course, and there's C. And let's see if we can, yes. Ideally, and one doesn't always get into this situation, ideally we want the parties to reach the point where they say, we have a common problem. We see it differently, and we have different needs and interests, given where we come from, different values, different class, social status, etc. But it's a common problem. And the problem can only be solved collaboratively. How do we solve this collaboratively? That's an ideal situation. But if you take a step back and you're into hard bargaining, you can also make quite a lot of progress. You make no progress if the parties think that the job of the mediator is to help them in their demands and they're not willing to budge an inch. So one of the things a mediator tries to do is express an understanding of the party's position, have some empathy, but also to help them empathize with each other. Now that seems like lunacy in the middle of an intense conflict. I mean, can you imagine the ANC representing an oppressed people who are denied a vote because of the colour of their skin, empathizing with a white racist minority? But they did. In the negotiations, some of the hard-line Communist Party members on the ANC side of the negotiating table are saying, in their caucus, comrades, they're frightened. How do we alleviate their fear? They're frightened, we're going to do to them what they did to us. And their fear makes them hard line and inflexible. We don't want that. We want them to be flexible in the negotiations. They're frightened we're going to take their houses and their farms away from them. We're frightened we're going to shut down all their white schools. So we're going to have to make some compromises in order to get them to soften up. What do we want? A non-racial, non-sexist democracy. We have to make some compromise. My comrade at the other end of the table in the ANC caucus is saying bullshit. Saying, that's unacceptable. You know, these are murdering thugs. And the response is, wake up, we didn't win. Had we won, we could have imposed our solution. We didn't win. This is a stalemate. That's why we're at the negotiating table. We have no option. This is not being nice for nice sake. This is the pragmatic imperative. You want a war, or do we want peace and democracy? That's where we're heading up. That's our strategic decision. And so remarkably, you have within the ANC an empathy for their former oppressors. You cannot solve the Israeli-Palestinian problem without both sides having a deep understanding of the fears and the anguish of the other, as hard as that is.